This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, here we go. Breaking news on CNN. Conservative media's biggest star and the face of Fox News is out. Talking about Bill O'Reilly here. We've got lots of voices to weigh in on all of this and how things are quickly moving behind the scenes. Senior media correspondent and host of Reliable Sources, Brian Stelter, is with us. Dylan Byers, senior media and politics reporter, with us, in addition to Chris Cillizza there in Washington. Dylan, to you, I saw your tweet. Tell me what you know.
That's right. We now have an official statement from 21st Century Fox. I just want to read it to you in full. After a thorough and careful review of the allegations, the company and Bill O'Reilly have agreed that Bill O'Reilly will not be returning to the Fox News channel. Of course, this comes after the revelation earlier this month that O'Reilly and 21st Century Fox had paid out $13 million in settlements to 5 women who had accused him of sexual harassment and or verbal abuse. It is hard to overstate how stunning a development this is in the American media landscape, certainly in the cable news industry. Bill O'Reilly, of course, the #1 most watched figure in cable news, a very powerful and influential voice, and very much the face of the Fox News channel. So a very stunning development today, Brooke.
Brian Stelter, stay with me, Dylan. Brian, just backing up. This is all over, multiple sexual harassment claims, this multi-million-dollar settlement that came to light. He's been on vacation. He met with the Pope today. Tell me more about what you know.
That's right. Let me go back to 2004. Bill O'Reilly was sued in 2004, charges of sexual harassment by a former producer. He paid money, they settled out of court, it went away, and he stayed on the air. But a lot has changed in 13 years. Corporate America has changed. Our society has changed. And Fox News, now hearing other allegations of harassment from other women, is no longer able to stand by O'Reilly. I think it says a lot about corporate America, about our culture, and also about conservative media. Some of O'Reilly's fans are going to be furious about this, but he has many, many detractors that were wondering if this could ever happen. 3 weeks ago, if you and I had sat here and said, Bill O'Reilly might be leaving Fox, we would have laughed at that idea. He was seen as invincible. But even Bill O'Reilly is not invincible. This network now has a decision to make about the 8 p.m. hour, but it's a lot bigger than that. It's about conservative media more broadly. And I think we should point out one other historical element to this. O'Reilly built up Fox News along with Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes was the founding CEO, and O'Reilly was his biggest star. And for 20 years, they built this channel into the powerhouse that it is today. But last summer, Ailes was sued for sexual harassment, and then Fox had an internal investigation. 2 weeks after the investigation started, Ailes was forced to resign. The same exact thing has happened here, Brooke. About 2 weeks ago, the New York Times wrote about these settlements involving harassment allegations from women who said O'Reilly had harassed them. He has denied those claims. But 2 weeks ago, Fox started an investigation. And some women called up and said they too have been harassed. And exactly 2 weeks to the day, once again, the Murdochs are taking this action.
There are far-reaching ramifications within Fox, within conservative media. Politics of this, Chris Cillizza, not too long ago, even the President of the United States stood by Bill O'Reilly, essentially saying he's a good guy.
Yeah, and remember that defense was sort of out of nowhere. It came right after the New York Times story. He offered no real evidence of why he said that about O'Reilly other than they know one another. It's hard to overestimate or overstate, and Brian and Dylan make these points well, how titanic Bill O'Reilly is in the conservative firmament. Bill O'Reilly and Roger Ailes were in many ways the sort of twin heads of the modern conservative movement. The Donald Trump candidacy is born of the vision of Bill O'Reilly, or the vision of Roger Ailes as executed in many ways by Bill O'Reilly, that it is no longer the William F. Buckleys who sort of run the idea factory and the perception of what the Republican Party or the conservative movement is. It is in many ways Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes. So the idea, Brian touched on this, but I mean, it really is stunning, Brooke. I don't think you can say it too many times. The idea that Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly are both now ousted, both in similar ways with similar problems, is just, it's the conservative media, yes. It's a big deal for Fox, but it's a big deal for the way in which the conservative brand is sort of imagined in this country, because that is what Ailes and O'Reilly did.
And then just even add into the time frame of 9 to 10 months, and for entirely separate reasons, but still a mega star. You have Megyn Kelly, so 3 of them out, 9 to 10 months.
I would actually add a 4th, Greta Van Susteren. She was also a primetime player. So partly this speaks to the idea that Fox is bigger than any single star. But Bill O'Reilly was by far the brightest star on Fox. He was what the network was built on. And in some ways, this speaks to what is now acceptable and what's unacceptable in a workplace, whether at Fox News or anywhere else. I'm reading now an internal memo that was shared with staffers, going beyond the statement that was released publicly.
Are you talking about the Murdoch statement?
That's right. It says the decision was, it followed an extensive review in collaboration with outside counsel. That means the law firm I was referring to that was brought in 2 weeks ago to examine these allegations.
Yep.
Now, the memo goes on to celebrate O'Reilly's rating success, his power on the network. By rating standards, Bill O'Reilly is one of the most accomplished television personalities in the history of cable news. In fact, his success by any measure is indisputable. Fox has demonstrated again and again that the strength of its talent bench, we have full confidence the network will continue to be a powerhouse in cable news. So the Murdochs here, Rupert Murdoch and his sons, James and Lachlan, are trying to say, we're going to be fine. We are bigger than any single star. And that's absolutely true. But at the same time, this has shaken the network in a really profound way. There's about to be a staff meeting there at 3 p.m. You can imagine what it's like when your primetime star, your 8 p.m. host, has been accused of harassment by multiple women who worked at Fox and who were guests on his show. And the network has essentially been silent about this for 2 weeks. The Murdochs recognize a lot of change needs to happen at Fox.
OReilly Martin, you're weighing in here as well, CNN legal analyst, and ahead of this meeting with the newsroom over at Fox News Channel, we've talked a lot about there have been hotlines set up, and there hadn't been apparently HR complaints, but to the defense of some of these women, according to even Dylan's reporting, that they didn't feel like they could call in and complain in this at the time Roger Ailes era. How do you see this?
Yeah, that was one of the first statements that came out from Fox, is that, look, none of these women have come forward and reported this alleged sexual harassment to any of the personnel management or through these official channels. But the reality is you don't have to. The law doesn't require women to use these official grievance channels. If they have been sexually harassed, they can do just what many of these women have done. They can make their complaints known via their lawyers, which is what we saw Lisa Bloom doing on television for the last couple of weeks, is talking about 2 of the clients that she represents, or they can enter into these private settlement negotiations, which we know have caused Fox and O'Reilly to spend $13 million in settlement. So there are lots of ways that sexual harassment complaints come forward, and it's not always through hotlines or through internal processes, because many women don't trust them. They don't trust that the information is confidential, and they fear retribution.
Do we think, Dylan, OReilly, stay with me. Dylan, do you think, based upon this independent investigation, that something else was found, something new, just based upon this Murdoch statement here?
Certainly, it's very possible. Again, we should reiterate that 21st Century Fox was aware of many of the accusations against Bill O'Reilly that date back over a decade, and of the settlements paid out because they were involved in some of those settlements. So there is a very good chance that something else came up in this review. It's also possible that 21st Century Fox understood that the public pressure was too detrimental, not just to Fox News, but to all of 21st Century Fox businesses, including their efforts to acquire Sky Broadcasting in the UK. But what they are saying is that this was the result of that internal investigation. I would also point out from that letter that Brian was reading earlier, hand-signed by all 3 of the Murdochs, they said that they are committed to fostering a positive and safe workplace environment. That was a commitment that they had made more than 9 months ago when they got rid of Roger Ailes, who was, obviously had his own litany of sexual assault accusations against him. So I think there's going to be some doubts among Fox News staffers here, the fact that they've had to live through this nightmare again about what the commitments of the Murdochs really are to fostering that safe workplace environment.
OReilly, what about the overall federal investigation? Where does that stand now with Fox News and Roger Ailes?
I think that federal investigation continues. We know that the feds are looking into how these settlements were actually reported on the SEC statements, and whether they were mistakenly or intentionally misreported as income to women rather than as settlements. And I think, the real issue here is does Fox want to see change in its workplace? Employers have the ability to root out individuals who are engaged in sexual harassment. They know who they are. They know that the law is with them in terms of disciplining these employees and ridding the workplace of this kind of harassment. So Fox talked about this 9 months ago. Now's the time to see, are they really going to take action? And it probably goes a lot deeper than Bill O'Reilly.
For now, it's Bill O'Reilly, and that's where we are, who is, again, as Brian and I were just talking, off the top, he met the Pope today. He's on vacation in Italy.
Right.
And by the way, was this a regularly scheduled vacation? It was just elongated?
Right. He normally takes a pretty short vacation over the Easter area, the spring break season.
Yeah.
So this was a longer vacation. He apparently had bought his plane tickets to fly to Italy many months ago. So Fox was happy he was going on vacation. It gave them a chance to conduct this investigation, to find out if other women had similar accusations, and to have a cooling off period, essentially. Having him on the air was difficult when advertisers were abandoning his show. I think we haven't talked about the financial aspect here much, which is dozens of advertisers withdrew their ads from the Factor right after the New York Times reported on April 1st that there had been this string of sexual harassment claims and settlements. So without advertisers, all he had were ratings. He does have a big audience. O'Reilly grows, the 8 p.m. hour grows every night when O'Reilly is on. He has this massive audience that comes in for him. But without advertisers and without the support of his bosses, the Murdochs, he essentially did not have much. So in this negotiation, he didn't have much power. He's over in Italy, listening to calls from his agents and lawyers, trying to fight back, but did not have that ability. He was at the Vatican today. There's a picture of him with the Pope. He was able to shake the hand of the Pope. Presumably, he'll have a longer vacation. But I don't think we'd be surprised if we see O'Reilly on another network someday. Not CNN or MSNBC, but some smaller channel that needs or wants his audience. He does have a lot of fans out there that might be angry at Fox.
Let's continue the what's to come of Fox conversation in just a second. Let me ask all of you to stand by. We're going to sneak a quick commercial break in. But if you are just joining us, the cable powerhouse star Bill O'Reilly is out at Fox News. We'll be right back.